Ooh woo. Hello, everybody. If you haven't been here before, my name's Tarot, and I wanted to do something a little different. I know there's been like quite a dip in all like the clips I used to post, largely because I'm not playing a whole lot of From Software games right now. But this video was something I've had on my mind for a long time, and I kind of wanted to get it out, especially after I discovered all my old clips and didn't lose them all for this build. So, yeah, this is a build. This build is a hybrid strength faith build. Um, that's based off of the Divine Beast Warriors from the DLC. Um, we'll I'll go over kind of the theme and inspirations for it first, and then we'll talk about like the more technical aspects of it, weapons, things like that. Um, So the Horn Scent are obviously the natives of the Land of Shadow, and all impressions I get from them are they are a very brutalist, almost kind of druidic society. They worship the Crucible and its spiraling energies to find a way to ascend to heaven, or at least make contact with the heavens to try and find their divine beast. I am not a lore expert by any means, so a lot of this is my own personal interpretation, and I could be wrong. Um, so take anything I say not as fact, but just take it with a grain of salt. So one thing I want to talk about first is Divine Bird Warrior Ornis. The description for Ornis's ashes states that he tamed the divine bird and made its wings his own. Then, when he finally crashed down to Earth, he became the guardian deity of the Temple Town Quarter, um, which, obviously, if you know, is where you find his ashes. Um, all of the divine beast warriors claim to be descended from him. I like to think it more in a sense of school of thought or discipline rather than actual bloodline. Um, Star Wars kind of does this where it's like, you know, the chain of master and apprentice counts as one lineage per se. Um, But it seems like the Divine Beast Warriors are kind of like the thing you want to be in Hornset society, aside from a lord and a god. Um, which basically anything to deal with the Divine Beast Warriors or the Divine Bird Warrior. Um, I think those are all fashion options you can take if you want to try and replicate the build. Another interesting thing about um, the Horn Scent, the Tower, and the Divine Beast Warriors is actually Stormvale. There are a lot of parallels between Stormvale and Anir Lim. If you even look at the front gate of Stormvale and look up at the two like tower ramparts, they're arranged in a way that mirrors Anir Lim almost exactly. Um, and the Stormhawks are stated to be descendants of the ancient dragons. Um, and there's kind of an unstated connection between the ancient dragons and the Horn Scent. Um, so this is where this is where things kind of get into theory a little bit. So, those of you who are familiar with Dark Souls 3 and its lore, the game is kind of structured to show you various ages as you progress through it. Um, And eventually that culminates when you go and fight Demon Prince, because the Demon Prince, its boss fight arena is Dark Souls 1's Firelink Shrine. You can also think about Mass Effect and the Protheans in this way. So basically what my grander point is I think the Hornsent built their civilization from the decay and ruins of the ancient dragon civilization. Anyway, this is kind of a long-winded way of saying a lot of the ashes of war that I use with this build are, storm ashes of war, because, obviously. So I use a lot of things associated with the tower and Bellurat. Anywhere a Divine Beast Warrior or Bird Warrior works, anything around that area. The only thing I don't use are, the actual Horned Warrior curve swords, largely because this build is so strength and faith leaning that I didn't want to go out into, God, I can't fucking think right now. I didn't want to spread it too thin, so I have minimal decks. So one thing I kind of wish we could do, and you could probably switch the stats around to probably accomplish this, but you could use the Great Sword of Radon from Prime Consort, or Kevin Prime, as I like to call him. So, and I like to think that the prophecy of the Divine Beast descending from the heavens in Hornsent lore is actually them misinterpreting Radon and Mikola coming forth at the Divine Gate, because Radon has lion imagery, and because he's in Mohg's body, he's got omen horns coming out of his arms and shit like that. But otherwise, as far as themes and inspiration, that's kind of half the fun with it. As far as weapons, there are some kind of obvious things always have a halberd of some kind. It cannot be understated how useful halberds are. Also, jar cannon, ballista. It just things you need for survival, basically. So I like to do 60 vigor, 18 mind. This build has more endurance than I usually run, so it's at 25. Strength is our primary stat, and you'll come out to 63 with the Divine Beast helmet. The minimum requirement we have is 18, so we just have 18 decks. For Faith, it's 50 plus the Faith tier. So, basically, just enough to cast Land of Shadow. I know that spell sucks, but, I mean, it's a character from... the character is based in the Land of Shadow. There are a couple optimizing things you can do. You could shave off 3 decks and, meet the 18 decks requirement for, from one of the helmets. And you could use that to put yourself up to 66 strength. Now, one of the things that really like put this build together for me was the deflecting hard tier. It's arguably my favorite thing to come out of the DLC. It's a cornerstone of the build, and while like I end up missing carry and retaliation, I you know you're deflecting shit like it's cool as hell. Um, So, like, after a guard counter, one thing I like to do is follow up with a projectile spell or Ash of War. So, Stormblade or Lightning Spear. If you wanted to try and set up a combo, you could also do Stone of Garank. Which, if you're running a Faith build, Stone of Garank is basically carry and piercer. I needed to take a drink there. And I've gotten multi-kills doing a guard counter with the Watchdog's Greatsword before. I just want to talk about some of the weapons specifically. So, the Horde Warrior Greatsword was the weapon that made me want to made me want to commit to this flavor of build. And I mean, think about the Divine Beast Warriors for a second. They gave what was basically Udex Gundyr a curved greatsword, and they whoop my ass every time. Plus, it has its own get the fuck off me tool. And it does hella damage if you use the Divine Beast Talisman. I mean, it's a slower Stormhawk call, basically. And the range on it can't be understated. I also like to use the Gargoyle Greatsword. Basically, if you put Stormblade on it, you're effectively busting hosts open like a piñata. Especially if you hit them with Stormblade. And it is arguably the best weapon on the build by far. I have it strength infused. Or heavy infused. But it's basically, to trade projectiles with mages and make sure it fucking hurts if they want to commit to the trade. Like I said, the Watchdog's Greatsword, I mentioned that earlier. Ultra Greatswords are how I learned to play these games. So I will always do almost anything I can to use them. And the Watchdog's Greatsword does incredible guard counter damage. You could also do... Now, by all means, if you want to use the Zweihander, go ahead. You would actually probably have more success with Crouch Poking and then Divine Beast Frost Stomp, which is what I like to use. But I do like that as like a roll catch option. Sometimes you can catch people with Stone of Garank. It's hard to land, though. So, as far as magic, I use the Clawmark Seal just to get the most out of strength and faith stats. And the bestial incantations, running somebody down with the like pebble throw and your curved greatsword is a lot of pressure if you space it out. But some of my favorite spells on the build are Divine Beast Tornado. It's kind of the cornerstone of the casting side of the build. It's honestly an incredibly underrated spell. And But it does have one weakness, and most things in Elden Ring have this weakness, where if elevation is a factor at all, it does kind of fall short. It can also linger in place, so if an opponent gets hit by it and doesn't move, they actually get hit twice. You can also hit people from around corners with it. So if you stand next to a wall and are able to shoot it down against the wall, if someone's hiding around a corner, it will hit them when it stops at the end of the wall. There's also one of the other spells which has become arguably one of my favorite spells. I use this on almost every build, almost every Faith build, is Giant Golden Arc. It's a great way to shake up cadence, but also you can kind of use it to set up great swords. So, like, you can hit somebody, and then as they roll out, or as they come in, you can use Giant Golden Arc, and typically it will either stop them or make them change trajectory. Bestial Sling is the spell I was thinking of. Stone of Garank and Lightning Spear, obviously. They're a pseudo combo if you don't have max cast speed, but if you do have max cast speed, they are a true combo. I like to use other spells. Lightning Spear. Another note about Lightning Spear: it's a great flask punish. I also like to use the aspect of the Crucible spells. It can honestly be any one of them, but they were a Crucible worshipping society, and, you know, I would be remiss not to have at least, like, horns or tail on them. So, all in all, Horn Scent Rata is my second favorite build I've ever made. It has a few goofy tricks and things that make the build enjoyable for me. If you're looking for a casting build that relies heavily on physical damage, this is what I would recommend to you. Or if you're looking for an elementalist caster, you could use this as a framework as well. The only thing that holds this build back is that thematically it can't use fire damage, which is kind of what works perfectly with Faith and Strength. But you can compensate that by having a Frost package that can use burst damage to good effect. Which is the Ultra Great Sword, Divine Beast Frost Stomp into poke, or vice versa. It allows me to do constant pressure, which is something I like to do because I am one anxious motherfucker. And like any Elden Ring build, it's what you make of it. Like, that is where all the fun lies, is where you can find it and do the little, like, you know, if you like roleplay like I do, you can get it there. Or I like the stats of this build. I should have mentioned earlier, it's 168. I'll have something up that shows the stat screen eventually. But if you can stomach sub 200, this is honestly a great build. But you can take this general concept and apply it to any soul level. I imagine this would get some work done at 90. Anyway, I'm Tarad. I'm signing off for now, but thank you guys for watching. And if you like this and want to see more, please like and subscribe. Ooh woo.